Dank Farrick. Seems my trip did not go unnoticed, even with the disguise wig. Guess I need to hurry up and find Pete's cousin. Excuse me, you wouldn't happen to know a fella by the name of Pete, would you? Sorry to bother you, young feller. In the meantime, you know what they say. Sun's out, guns out.
Okay, people, welcome back to another Fwoosh Weekly. As always, I'm Robo, and how am I supposed to concentrate on other toy news when the Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified Series retro carded Baroness has been found at a Walmart in Washington? That popped up as soon as I started recording. I hit the button, walked around, glanced down at my phone, as I tend to do, and hey, new toys out there now. Part of me is fighting the urge to jump in the Robomobile and make the Walmart circle. And I say circle because in my area, the 5 Walmarts that are in my comfort zone are basically, you know, boom, 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 boom. And yeah, I was counting the booms because I didn't want to. You said 5 Walmarts and you only did 4 booms. But the other half of me, the seasoned toy hunter, the rational side, is like, no, it's in Washington. You're in Arkansas. It's got quite a distance before it starts popping up in these parts. But I have seen weirder things happen. Just look at it. It's so beautiful. The retro carding, the new deco on the face, the removable glasses, the weapons. And then on the back, oh baby, file card. I'm okay with the new style icons on the side, but yeah, that's cool too. And who's that Pokemon? It's Gung Ho and Destro's eyebrows. I guess we'll talk about all this other toy news. No, I'm kidding. There's a lot of cool stuff to look at. And then the hunt begins. Starting off, let's finally put the cherry on top with the Sentinel Fighting Armor War Machine. It finally saw solicitation this week after 3 weeks of slow build. There were a couple of pictures, and then a couple more pictures, and then I forgot a few things, and now we have all the info. To recap the basics, it's Rhodey in an armor, which is not a unique concept, but it fits the style of this line. It just works right in. Then more pics showing the weapons swapping from the back to the legs and probably other places, and the forearms folding out for heavy lifters, some clamps, or some staple removers. Special thanks to Mighty Kane for that one. Plus the new pics show him paired up with the Fighting Armor Iron Man, and this is just a match made in heaven. War Machine will set you back about $100 and should release in August. But Sentinel, you've been dropping the ball. Remember way back when we used to have fun with the 80s prom picture? You haven't been doing that lately. So once again, I gotta do it myself. I've been waiting for a girl like you. Some other figures we've already laid eyes upon are the Hasbro Marvel Legends X-Men 90s animated series Wolverine, Jubilee, and Mr. Sinister, but this week there's new promotional images, and I think it's our first look at them in actual physical fondable form. The others were digital renders, which gives us an idea, but again, it doesn't give us a final look at what is coming out of the factory with the paint apps there and the plastic sheens, and I think that's what changes up the cell shading here. Sure, it's still there, it's still prominent, but it blends in a little bit better. It's not just wham right in your face. Now, if you've ever seen me on a live stream, you know I'm not big into the 90s cartoons, so these weren't really for me. But I will say, I dig Wolverine's claws, how thin they are and how they look. And then, for some reason, Jubilee's glasses, the cell shading on those, just perfect for a cartoon-inspired glass substance. If you're interested, all 3 are still up for pre-order on Hasbro Pulse for $27 a pop. Keeping with the we've seen these before, but there's new pretty promotional pictures to ponder train, Target posted up their pre-order page for the upcoming, I cannot get used to this, Hasbro Fortnite Victory Royale Series Dio and Siona Battle Royale. My tongue wasn't meant to be that fancy. And you go and put 2 Royales in the same title. You're killing me. Not the craziest of sets to come out of the Fortnite line. It's essentially a man and a woman in spacesuits. But as everyone knows, I have a tendency to shove these figures where they don't belong, but seem right at home. With some paint tweaks, or hell, right out of the package, these could fit in a lot of places. Guardians of the Galaxy, G.I. Joe Special Missions, Star Wars, you knew I was gonna say that. Don't lie, you were waiting for it. $48 for the set and available to ship right now. In fact, last time I looked, I could order it for pickup at my local store, but Target, You're trying to target me. You've done me dirty too many times. Too many times. Gotchaman. I know it by Battle of the Planets. There's also G-Force, Ken the Eagle, Mark, Ace Goodheart, and from what I understand, what little research I did, there's other versions out there too. Whatever you want to call them, Storm Collectibles has finally put up the pre-order for the Gotchaman. That's what they're calling it, the Gotchaman Ken the Eagle figure. And I say it like that because this was actually announced way back in April of 2020, and then we saw the first prototype in September, October of that same year. That's a long time to develop, and honestly, comparing the pictures, it doesn't look that different. Maybe licensing issues, approvals were slow, something, who knows. Whatever the case, it's available now, and it looks magnificent. Lots of hand options, 3 different capes, which sounds crazy, but it looks amazing. 2 bird boomerangs, both open and closed, and then 2 separate heads. Storm has also strayed away from their standard seamless torso, and I've seen more praise than complaints. It's been a while since I've messed with a Storm figure. Is that causing people problems? Is that a thing now? $90 set to ship Q3 of 2022. Now, for the rest of the team. If it took 2 years to develop this, how long will it be before we see the other? Was it other 4 characters or so, and maybe villains? Who knows? Making the transition from old stuff to new stuff, Mezco gave us a little bit of both in the past 7 days. Well, it's kind of my own fault. During the last weekly, I got the notification for Nemo's crew, and I jumped at it, and I was like, okay, we're gonna do this right on the fly. Pow, 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 pow. And I completely missed out on Nemo's water goblin glider, or the Captain Nemo Wave Rider and expansion pack is what it's officially called. I guess you could say it's a jet ski mecha manta ray. It's just a cool little thing to go with your Captain Nemo. And then it came with a trident belt, vest, and goggles. Unfortunately, it's sold out now, but the link is in the description if you want to jump on the wait list. Along with that, I also missed out on the Neon Nightmare skull set. Their skulls, they're in neon colors. They fit on other Mezco figures. That's about it. Those are still available though. At least the last time I looked, $25. But then this week, another 1/12 Collective Conan, all decked out in Conqueror garb. This totally makes sense. They developed a body that skewed away from their normal cloth-covered fare, and they're just gonna get their money out of it. Plus, it's Conan. It's a no-brainer. $112 Mezco exclusive, and unfortunately, if you didn't jump on this, I'm recording this on Friday. They announced that pre-orders would end today. So if you're watching this on Saturday, the link's down there. You can go look, but I don't know what'll happen. But if you did get it, there's also the Barbarian booster. In case you end up with more Conan bodies, you can swap out the heads, give yourself more Barbarians to overtake the whole shelf. There's alternate heads, weapons, clothing, and it all fits on the Conan body. Hey, extras are good. Options are good. I will never complain about more stuff. $40, scheduled to ship later this year. If you missed out on the 4 Horsemen Mythic Legion style Krampus a few months ago, looks like you're in luck, because it's coming around again in sherry flavor. It seems like a 4 Horsemen related retailer jumped the gun this week, posted pictures, and then pulled it back down because it wasn't supposed to be up yet. So the 4 Horsemen said, hey, to hell with it. Here's a picture of it. And this time around, it's gonna be available for pre-order at all of the retailers they work with, and you will be able to order as many as you want, and it will be out before this year's holiday season. And I think I like the red better. The details pop more. There's contrast between the red skin and the black armor. Plus, he looks like he's about to accept a rock-off from Tenacious D. The demon code prevents me. And that's all we got. One picture. More details soon. Oh, come on. It's always Todd this, Todd that. The man doesn't sleep. Well, I always talk like he's the only one doing anything at McFarlane Toys, but it's a whole crew. It's a whole team. But even then, I have to imagine that the lights at that office never go off. We've already seen the initial offerings for the DC Multiverse The Batman movie, like The Batman, The Catwoman, and The Riddler. This week we got pre-orders for more. We already knew about Penguin from overseas pictures, but like I always say, it's better to get promotional pictures. You can pore over them, you can look at all the little details, and I cannot see Colin Farrell at all. And I'm not talking about the figure, I'm talking about from the movie, the trailers and stuff. It's like, Catwoman sees some reuse with an unmasked head, but looking at the colors, it also seems to be slightly more purpley than the first release. Or maybe that's just lighting in the studio, something. And then, of course, there's an unmasked Batman. This looks to use the head from the Drifter Bruce Wayne on the body of the already... Is it releasing now? Is it being found in stores? The cowled Batman. Hey, but at least the Bruce Wayne head is looking to his right, instead of the Masked Batman's left. It changes it up a little bit. In fact, what are they all looking at? What is happening over there? Bad Todd, bad. $20 set for March. In fact, if I remember right, the last few DC Multiverse things we've talked about is coming out in March. That's a heavy month. Well, okay, never mind. There's actually something else from McFarlane Toys that isn't DC Multiverse, and it's not due in March. Amazon has listed the Critical Role, Vox Machina, Percy, and Vexalia for April. And yes, I'm not sure of the pronunciation on Vexalia, and I am fighting my nature not to say Machina or Machina. Didn't he sell the donuts in Wayne's World? I remember McFarlane announcing the license for Critical Role, but they only showed a statue, right? This is the first time we're seeing actual action figures. That led me to Googling Vox Machina, and I did not know it was going to be a Netflix animated series. I watched the trailer for that, and strangely, I'm interested. Intrigued even, because as I was watching it, I got the feeling of the old Dungeons & Dragons cartoon, but modernized with more adult themes. Which makes sense. I know Dungeons & Dragons. I get it. As far as the figures go, it's your standard McFarlane articulation scheme with sculpt that matches the style of the show, which may be a bit too stylized to pull the old, oops, I'm sorry, Marvel shelf, I tripped and fell into you. Then again, my interest will depend on how much I like the show when I get around to watching it. I think it starts this weekend. But we all know what happens when Robo says he's gonna watch a show.
Yeah, we do.
Shut up.
Okay.
Like I said, April, $20 a piece. Good Smile enters the Homelander fray with their own Figma version. I'm still behind on the show, so I have no attachment to the characters themselves, but this, it looks pretty good. It has the signature Figma exaggerated detail, like on the suit, and then almost a cartooniness to it. There's detail, but there's also a smoothness. I think more than that, the options sell it. 3 faceplates, 1 serious, 1 kind of crazy, and then 1 beaten to a pulp. And then there's 2 I-beam effects to give you more possibilities, more personality. Garnish with a posable cloth cape, and you have a good-looking Homelander. Well, okay, besides the other things I already listed, there's also the standard Figma elbows and knees that kind of break apart whenever you flex them. Again, there's that smoothness coming into the design. Runs about $90, releases in February. Wait, is that right? February 2023. I thought that sounded odd. Looks like 3-0 is full speed ahead with their MCU Iron Man armors, which seems to be, every time somebody gets this license, they make one, it sells like hotcakes, they make another, and then they just kind of stack. In this case, we saw the DLX Mark 43, and it's red and gold butter. In look, in feel, in engineering, in fun factor, it's just so smooth. Then came Hulkbuster, which I am laying hands on this week. I gotta work out before I start playing with that thing. Then there was Iron Patriot, and now there is Mark 46. I gotta think it's more the same with its optional wrist rockets and blast effects, the light up chest and head, and then die-cast parts. Plus I always liked how this armor burnished up the gold and then dropped the red into a burgundy zone. Like a maturity. Like Tony has learned some things. He's aged, but there's still a playful side because it's still a dude in a suit of armor flying around. Could you imagine? One thing to watch out for though, they always list these as 1/12 scale and they actually clock about 7-inch. This will look better next to your DC Multiverse or your Marvel Selects. $100 should release in September. And to wrap up this weekly, let's go back to last Friday night when Medicom announced their monthly pair of Mafex figures. Out of left field, there is the Terminator T-800. I guess I got too used to Marvel and DC dominating the schedule because I had forgotten that we used to get other things like Pennywise, or Chucky, or John Wick, or RoboCop, or Star Wars. Ooh, but I have that RoboCop. Terminator would look amazing next to that. Did I just talk myself into buying this thing? The clothes do seem a bit plasticky and smooth, but that actually kind of works with the jacket, the boots, and the gloves. Not a bad likeness either, and even better with sunglasses, which is how I would display a Terminator if I was to pre-order this thing. Not that I have, and not that I'm going to after I get off here. More than anything though, maybe Medicom just got sick of the silly gun restrictions on comic characters and said, hey, we're doing Terminator and we're doing this. Deal with it. Speaking of comic characters though, DC Hush Nightwing. So pretty. Not the Batman family member I wanted most, but seeing Dick in all his black and blue glory, I have a hole on my Batman shelf that is ready to be filled. A hole that was reserved for Robin, but that hole will still be there, and then Grayson gets a hole right next to him. I do not know what I'm talking about. Like I always say about the Mafex figures based on Jim Lee's art, step right out of the page. I mean, you can't get a better plastic representation than these, with articulation. And I know there's been statues and older figures with less articulation, but if you're wanting something movable, Last Fooshcast, we were trying to figure out how the Eskrima would mount on the back. It seems like in one picture, the back has clips on it. In another picture, there's no holes. There's nothing to put it on there. And we thought maybe magnets, but it seems internet sleuths have went out of their way to figure out that it's a back piece that's removable, swappable. Notice the seam running up under the arm and then around the back of the neck. There's also an alternate teeth gritting head, rods attached with bendy wire, and alternate hands including a set of spinning sticks. It's got a neat translucent effect to simulate motion. And now the long wait. MSRP is $75, scheduled for November, but we know better. These won't release until sometime next year. Prove me wrong, Medicom. And that's it for this week, I think. There's still stuff happening as I'm recording. But if I missed anything, we'll swing back around next week. If you're interested in any of these pictures without me all to come into my life, I'll be posting all of that, plus links to pre-orders, more information on the Foosh front page Saturday at noon. And a little bit of news that didn't have pretty pictures to go with it. Hasbro announced that they have acquired the license to make Indiana Jones toys. That'll be next year to coincide with the new movie, but I'm hoping, well, okay, I'll take new movie stuff, but I also want old movie stuff. You know, hey, let's spread the love. I don't think I've bought an indie figure from any line. There's been a few, but none were ever up my alley. In that same press release, Hasbro announced that they renewed their license for Star Wars, and that got me thinking, you know, I don't keep track of any of this. Just give me the toys. I want the toys. But could this be the reason for the recent slowdown? That we haven't been seeing a lot of product? We haven't been seeing a lot of new reveals? They didn't want to put a bunch of stuff out and then Lucasfilm or Disney or whoever is like, no, we're going to take Star Wars over here. And then they're stuck with a bunch of stuff. Maybe they've been waiting for that actual announcement, but I got to think, behind the scenes, this has probably been a done deal for a while. Who knows? Again, I don't follow that stuff. Just, hey, give me more toys. I don't care about all that other stuff. Well, okay, we're going to have to talk about the price hikes at some point, but we'll get to that whenever things are locked down a little bit more. But in the meantime, give me more toys. If you enjoyed this Foosh Weekly, comment, like, subscribe. Much love to the plus. If you're interested in seeing videos early or in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com. But wherever you may be watching this, I'll always catch you on the Foosh. And people always talking about my pajama pants. Those aren't pajama pants. These are actually shorts that I wear during this because it's freeing. And even though it is wintertime, it gets hot in this room for whatever reason. And I'm bouncing around and getting my workout in and building a little sweat. And yeah, the less clothes, the better. In fact,